All right. You also see that little red bar working across there? Yeah.
It'll reach it by 3 o'clock, I think.
It is. There you
Just
go.
about.
There we are.
We are good to go. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, 14 September 2022. This is a regular meeting of the Waterville Valley Select Board. I'm the chair, Rich Rita, and with me today is the vice chair, Margaret Turner, and select board member, Bob Freeze. So before I begin our actual agenda items, I just want to thank on behalf of the board, all the folks who helped out with a very smooth election yesterday. Patty Fergal, the town moderator, and Terry Waite, town clerk, and Reggie Breaton, the deputy town clerk, and Sharon, our indispensable administrative assistant, as well as other folks, supervisors of the checklist, and the multiple volunteers or ballot clerks did a absolutely bang up job. And many people don't realize that for some of those folks, they're there for 12 hours just on that one day, let alone having to work today and the day before yesterday to make sure we do it all properly. And I think all three of us were there and assisted in the counting. And so it was very nice to see it being done so well. So with that kudos, I'm going to move around the agenda a little bit. I think, okay, so why don't I start with Dave? I think I'd like just to move you up to front. I think you have other commitments here in a little bit. So, and we have someone, I think, here as well for this particular issue. So why don't we just move that to the top of the agenda? In fact, I don't see anybody in front of the floor anyway. So why don't we just have you go now?
Okay. Just a department head review right now, or?
Why don't you go ahead and do this issue and then we'll circle back. I'll get you in before you leave for the department head review.
Okay. So as you can see from the enclosed letter, I made a recommendation to Mark for a suspension of a short-term rental at 31 Giddings Peak Road. Mr. Pike is here. I met with him last week. And he wanted to come here and speak to you about it. And this was in response to a number of noise complaints that were consistently happening since about late June 24th was the first one. In all fairness to him, one of those was not substantiated, so there was really 6 noise complaint calls. And the police chief had a couple conversations with him, throughout the summers about these issues, and I met with him, and we did talk about it. But my recommendation is we still have an obligation to the neighbors for us to take some action on this issue that wasn't seeming to get any better. So that was the basis for my recommendation for the suspension of the short-term rental permit.
And when Dave sent me the recommendation, I followed up with the actual revocation letter.
Yes, I saw that.
It was based on the number of calls that we had received. We were looking at it within our regulations. There's basically 3 times allowed in the regulation for us to receive complaints. We did on the first 3 calls, we waived any fines on all of the calls. We waived.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I actually had. There were no fines
No, there were no fines
imposed.
No,
And
but
that
because
was-
these were renters.
That's
And most of the folks that we were getting noise
Okay.
complaints from were first time.
Right.
It was different week.
Right.
Different days.
And these fines would have been hundreds of dollars if we string it out for over time.
It's $250 for first offense.
right, but there were several offenses, so it would have added up.
Yeah, and so given the number of calls that we
Right.
had received, we did
Okay.
waive the fines. I did take the revocation action, and Mr. Pike wants to talk to you about
Okay.
that. There is an allowance in the regulation that he can appeal that decision to you, so.
Okay, I have a couple questions and I'll see if other select board members have questions. As I was reading through it, And then, Mr. Pike will have you talk. It seemed to me that 3 of the 6, I understand the one, wasn't substantiated. 3 of the 6 it seemed like over a weekend and were probably one rental, right?
I would, without knowing the exact details.
I would suspect, okay, and that may be helpful,
It was, yes.
okay. And another one was on a Friday, but there was no other problem for those renters. Like, again, I'm assuming if it was like more than a 1-day rental, it was Friday, the September 2nd, that once they were told about it, if there was a rental for that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, there may have been no complaints on that. So I'm wondering about that. And the other one was was midweek 1 day. I don't know if that was a week-long rental or what that was. So that would be interesting to flesh out a little bit. Now, as I think we already mentioned, we waived imposing any fines, which could have run to hundreds of dollars. And lastly, your recommendation was 30-day, which would begin at the date of the revocation letter, which was 7 September, which means it would run to 7 October, which is the Friday of the Columbus Day long weekend. So just something else to keep in mind. And the last question I have is there's nothing in our particular regulations that specify the period of time or what the next step is other than an appeal for a revocation.
That's correct. And so that was the other question that I have for the board as a part of this is, it simply says the action is revocation. It doesn't say with a time limit. It doesn't say with other conditions or whatever. So I would like to discuss that part.
At another time, we probably need to tighten that up and what happens other than an appeal, what the process is at that point.
Right, and this
Right.
is your regulation, so it's
Okay.
not a town meeting.
Okay,
issue.
that make
It's
it much easier.
It's your,
Okay.
right.
Margaret,
I'd rather hear what he has to say before we ask questions.
all right,
Yeah, so I'm new to doing short-term rental, we bought this place, for ski purposes and family vacations, but we started doing short-term rentals. So I know just recently they passed, whatever it is where we gotta get the permit and go through all that, so I followed all the steps as soon as I learned about it. So I guess my concerns are, with the first complaint seems 100% justified. I was actually told, and I don't remember who was it, the chief of police that I spoke with the first time. So after the first incident of the weekend, that clearly there was a party going on, which per Airbnb rules, there's no parties allowed. That's immediate termination of the rental. We could throw those people out immediately with no repercussions from them. They got no legal standing to, if they're violating a rule, and my rules are, quiet. I think I even say 9 o'clock just to be safe. So they're kind of shutting down early. So honestly, what I would like to sort of propose is maybe setting up some sort of short-term rental group, which I would love to head, because I'm sure there's a lot of short-term rentals here, and people like me coming into this, I don't know the standards by which all these things are supposed to operate, what laws and whatnot. If I have guests up there that aren't technically through like a short-term rental, maybe I just rent it out to friends, they become, they get a noise complaint. How are we gonna follow up on those? Will that regulate? Because I also do short-term rentals, but maybe I have family members up there that get loud. Is that going to be a knock against the short-term rental? Or so it's sort of an understanding of when a guest is a guest versus when a guest is a short-term rental. 2 of the complaints I do have a question on. It didn't really say what the resolution was. I don't know if there's something in the documentation on the last 2. And just so you understand my side of the story, the weekend, that was obviously a problem. That is why my neighbor's upset with justification. I would be just as upset from the reports I'm getting of who was in my home doing illegal stuff that should not have been happening in my house, and they signed, you know, paperwork that says they wouldn't do this stuff. So, you know, there's probably criminal avenues I could pursue against these people if I had known about it, but they left, they were gone, and then 2 days later, I got a call saying there was a problem. And on Sunday of that weekend, I was told that there was a medical emergency at the place and the ambulance had to come. And for whatever you know, they obviously, for personally, they couldn't tell me what the medical emergency was. If I was told about this Friday, those people would have been gone. Saturday never would have happened. Sunday never would have happened. And God forbid, hopefully the person was okay and you know, got the medical attention they need. But from my point of view, that they shouldn't have been in my house. And now it brings me to the one call that sounds like just a harassment call. Clearly, my neighbors are angry. For good reason. Again, I'm not here to debate that those original renters. And again, just to understand, I think I've had about 70 renters prior to that group rent over the past year and a half or so. Was there ever a complaint prior to that, Mr. Noyes?
Not that I'm
Okay,
aware
so
of.
70 renters, one incident, angering a neighbor. Sounds like maybe 2 incidences that were founded. Do we know what, when they showed up, was it loud? Was it just an annoyed neighbor that just wants me out of the neighborhood?
Well, I think we did have in the letter, Dave, you talked about the one that was not a substantial complaint. So out of the 7, 6 were.
Well, 3 were one group,
Yeah,
2 were
That's right.
ones, those other 2, by the way, no phone calls. Didn't even know they happened. Didn't even have an opportunity to talk to the guest again.
So where are you located?
I'm living in Thornton right now. I actually live, the house also has a 1-bedroom apartment in the basement. I've been living there temporarily. You know, so I'm sort of in between places, but for the most part, I'm within 15
I thought I saw a
minutes.
Mansfield, Mass. Address.
So I'm getting divorced.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm trying to move up here permanently. That's kind of really all I want to say
Okay.
about that, but
Okay.
I am in the process of becoming a.
I was just wondering how close you are to be able to resolve something.
Oh, I'm within 15 minutes at any given time. And I'm only here to work with the town, work with my neighbors.
Do you have a minimum number of nights that you rent?
It depends on time of the year, like through the summer, it's 6-day minimums. The winter, it's anywhere between 3 or 2-day minimums.
And is it VRBO or is it Airbnb?
I use both. We do through both. You know, some of them are just personal friends. Like I say, I rent up here all the time to my friends and family. You know, so again, I'm not trying to excuse that first guest. That clearly is what started the snowball rolling downhill. That again, I wasn't even told about until I think it was Tuesday. They left Sunday, and the first phone call I got was either Monday or Tuesday. I forget what it was, but it was after the fact. And like I say, you know, someone got injured or something happened on Sunday, and to me that also seems like there was a process that could certainly be. You know,
So how do we know how to get in touch with you? Do we have on
Oh, yeah.
record, we have his number
So-
because of the,
So we have his number, but not all the times are officers showing up at 11 o'clock at night, midnight. Have that information readily available to them at the time. They're dealing with the noise complaint of the people who are actually causing the noise. And those are the ones that are getting followed up for. What happens is we're getting phone calls after the fact based on these noise complaints that we're getting over the weekend and then having to follow up with the owners after the fact. It's not the most ideal, but again, there's a gap between code enforcement and law enforcement. And we're talking the code enforcement world right now. The noise complaints fall under the law enforcement part. And so the better that we can do. We, our new software that we're doing will make it a little easier for these guys to be able to find that information. But that information is not always readily available to those police officers. In this case, we kind of knew because there was a history there moving forward, and that's why he got a couple phone calls from Chief Pear.
Did you have a question, Marty?
The noise complaint that was not founded, that was because it was happening during the day, is that correct?
Yeah, and
Okay.
Chief Payer went to the residents himself.
And we know even was it excessively loud? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
It wasn't. It was not founded. We told the person who complained that it wasn't against.
So this becomes my worry.
Mhm.
Will I just have neighbors that just want me out? And they don't care whether they're gonna use the law enforcement as a weapon. To me, it almost sounds like a nuisance complaint I could file against them for harassing my guests. And my property.
Well, the law enforcement officers who are on scene have to substantiate the complaint,
Okay,
when they're on scene. They're
Okay.
just not.
so do we,
They will wait outside, they listen.
Yeah.
If they're on the street and they can hear noise,
then they'll know.
then they'll look at it.
okay. And is there, I'm assuming there's a report written on the other two?
Yep.
And that's something I could see just to kind of understand. Okay.
Sure.
I would
And
think,
also, there were 2 calls on the night of the 2nd of September. That was the Labor Day weekend. There was one at 11:07 and there was one at 12:15. So it looks like the police had been there and then the noise continued and there was another noise complaint and they had to go back,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
And which one was that? Was on the.
That's the last one.
9/2?
That was on the Labor Day weekend.
Okay,
The second and the evening of the 2nd was one at 11 o'clock and there's another at
About an hour
12:15.
later.
Yeah, an hour later.
and like I'm saying, without kind of seeing the reports, I don't know what the officer truly found, if it was excessive noise, if he truly believed that, the neighbor that complained did have a.
Just knowing those 2 were legitimate, he did tell them to quiet down. On both occasions.
And just so you guys know, there's a product out there that is just a decibel level meter that I can connect to my phone. So I can put it in there and you can do it outdoors, you can do it indoors, and once it reaches a level, it would buzz my phone. And I can immediately call the guest up and say, hey, you understand, I have a poster on my wall that very, very explicitly says like it's a 1-strike rule. Cops come, you're gone. There's no second chance to that. That's something maybe we can put into the rules of maintaining short-term rentals. Maybe put that in the whatever,
It's a regulation.
yeah.
it seems to me that unless there's some mitigating circumstances that you can tell us that after 6 complaints that we are the suspension order.
Well, so we're fair, there's 3 of them was on one day, 2 were on another day, and 1 was unfounded.
3 of them
So
were
they
on
were-
3 separate days.
Yeah.
With the same person.
Right, with the same, that should,
same
in my opinion, should have been gone on the first one, so the second 2 should never have happened. And again, like I say, there's noise decibel meters I can put in, to sort of be on top of this a little bit more, but again, my worry is already that the cat's out of the bag, that the neighbor's just upset, and they're just gonna continue to call with you guys, whether there is noise, it's proven or not.
Well, if the neighbors don't think we look the other way, they might be more.
No, yeah, that is not what I'm saying at all. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I don't want to go down that road. That is.
I mean, my recommendation would be we let the letter stand and the 30-day suspension stand. That's my feeling. But I'm just one.
And then, just so I understand, so what happens after 30 days? I can continue again, and then it's a 3-strike policy from there, or is it
Yes,
1 strike
yeah.
after
To me,
that, or?
according to the regulation, it would reset. So we would be back to square one again. Dave, do you think?
Typically, when we do these, it's within a 12-month period.
12-month period.
So we look at it as a 12-month, within the last 12 months, are there prior incidences of this happening? I'm a little hesitant to just say, hey, okay, now your slate's wiped clean.
Yeah.
If there is a consistent issue happening, I'd like to remain consistent with some of our other things that we have in place that looks at the.
We can fix, I think we
We can
could
fix
fix
that
that
in the
or
regulation then.
tighten that up in the regulation.
Yeah.
Dave, tell me about other noise complaints and short-term rentals in town. Do you have any others that you've had to deal with?
Off the top of my head, I can say there were a few throughout the summer around in different other places, but don't hold me to that. I couldn't give you an exact number. I want to say that there were no locations that drew our attention, such as to this property here, that were certainly reoccurring.
How many short-term rentals are approved for town, do you think? Just the,
We're up to
pardon me,
50, 40.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could do a quick search on everything, it's pretty good. Pull up
Yeah.
stuff there.
Around that, just around there, and I know,
Well, those are the people that have permits, hold. That doesn't mean that.
Well,
they're-
assuming
that
that's
they're-
the thing, you know,
Right.
I went through trying to do the
Yep.
right thing.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
believe that all short-term rentals are actually doing this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anything further, Margaret?
You know, I agree with Bob that we ought to let the revocation stand.
Okay. I think we have a unanimous view on the revocation of 30 days to expire on the 7th of October. And that as part of this too, we do need to tighten up on the
Yep.
on
We
the
will-
short-term rental
We'll get
regulation.
some edits for you by the.
To make it work,
September 28th meeting.
And I don't think we want to go down a road as a town of requiring decibel meters or whatever they're called inside of units. I think that'd
It's
be,
not all about decibels.
no, not necessarily.
Sometimes
right.
it's setting off fireworks. You know,
Right, we
Outside,
would
so-
then set the decibel.
But I
I'm just
think-
saying I'll tell you
Right.
personally, I'm getting one, like
Yeah.
for sure.
I was going to say, that may be
That's never
something
gonna call again.
you
I'm
want
gonna
to,
be
you
there.
may want to recommend.
I think,
Yeah.
coming into winter also it's probably less of a problem
Yeah.
because of the windows being shut.
Yeah,
yeah,
And like I say, one of my favorite, I say it to my kids, I say it to everyone in business is, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. I want to be part of the team that you guys can bounce ideas off of, that I've been doing this now for about a year and a half. I've gone through many pitfalls just in how I've worded stuff and so
Mhm.
I think I've gotten pretty good of sort of understanding what gas.
All right, well, thank you for that. Yeah, it might be
So, yeah,
helpful
if you
to.
put together a committee, I'm the first
Um,
one.
I think that would be something more that private citizens might do who engage in short-term
Oh, sure.
rentals.
Okay.
If they wanted to get together and,
We got enough committees.
yeah, and compare notes, but certainly I think given your comments, you could serve as a useful resource if code enforcement or law enforcement ever thought that might be worthwhile bouncing something
For
off of
sure.
you. All right, are we done on this particular issue?
I think so. I think a good plan too is a good dialogue with your neighbors.
Yes, I
Is a
will,
great-
I will certainly reach out
Is
to them.
is a great resource, because
Yeah.
if they know that you're being responsive to it.
Yeah.
We're less likely to get the phone call.
Of course.
You would probably be a first call.
Give them your
And I
number.
would much rather if you deal with them than to have our.
That-
Yeah, of course. yes,
That would be
would-
the simplest
yeah,
thing, frankly, is have your
absolutely, yeah,
neighbor
guys
call
don't
you.
need to be going for-
So you can call the renters. All right. All right, Ms. Mike, thank you. All right, shall we move on to the next? Well, I see Brooke had to leave.
She had to leave, so.
We'll
she
deal
has
with it.
She has no major updates.
Okay,
So there's nothing.
Right.
That she needed to talk to you about unless you had questions for her that I can pass.
all right, we'll see if there's any later. You're welcome to stay, or we're informal, so you don't have to wait till we finish the meeting. So we'll go to,
Can I just-
yeah, please.
The other thing would be, were there any outstanding questions on the offsite solicitation application?
For the,
No, I was impressed.
The food truck.
there was more
everything is
paperwork
there.
involved with that than I see just
I mean,
about anything else.
As you all know, I came last year and tried to get the form updated. Now I'm happy that
Right,
Okay,
so,
Form
no,
was
no,
updated, I apologize, I think.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, you got the old form.
Yeah, right.
Was in front of you, but that.
All right.
but they look like they satisfied everything. I'm
yeah,
happy. I'm good.
I was, okay, we're unanimous
so you're,
on that.
so you're good.
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah.
move to, the.
The north end
the north
bathroom
end bathroom
issue, right?
issue with-
Yeah, did you have anything else, chief, that you wanted to
Um,
bring up for the meeting? I mean, since we're, might as well. So you don't have to hang around. We're getting closer. I think the time you have to leave.
No, we just started our AMT class last night. Here, there'll be a couple nights a week, there'll be a few Saturdays. Here we have 12 in that class, 6 are from our department. So we're actually pretty excited for that opportunity to actually have it here in the house, so.
Just
Jeff-
as the
Jeff Drop.
advanced-
Yeah.
advanced class.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Joe was telling us,
Yeah.
Joe Lacasse was telling about us yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's good there. Following up on a few noise complaints in the mornings with contractors, working with the general contractors, and it looks like some of the offenders are the subs or cement companies or these other subcontractors that don't particularly know the rules, so there might be some signage going up. I'll recommend that they have a sign permit.
On site, I mean,
Yeah,
on site.
just to give notification for some of these subcontractors showing up on site, showing up a little earlier than they have. The general contractors have been pretty receptive, so we're just working.
They're
with
just
them.
trying to get as many hours in, I think, before the weather closes. I might imagine that's
Yeah.
been part of it. Yeah,
And you all are invited, we're invited to town for a coffee with a cop on October 5th, it's Wednesday, we'll be in Town Square. So
just coffee.
coffee, there may be other refreshments also.
I'm gonna be out of town that week.
Is October 5th,
October 5th,
At
it'll be
what-
about 8:30 in the morning.
8:30?
Yep.
Okay. Town Square.
Go from 8:30 till about 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
And with that, I don't have anything else.
All right, thanks. Thank you, chief.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
thank you. All right. So what do we want to talk about when it comes to the porta potties that obviously didn't work? Our solution, our temporary solution was not a solution, apparently.
Yeah, just a little history on the north end.
Yeah, you don't have to stand on. You can come up to the microphone if you want, or,
So,
Right.
the history. There were always public restrooms available in the north end. For as long as I was here, then the academy came in and bought the buildings and started to do their renovations. And the restrooms moved into one of their classroom buildings. And they were kind enough to let the tennis center and the chairlift personnel and guests use their restrooms. But as the Pinnacle program came in and their academics started to really kick in, it became more of a, safety issue. You don't want people walking into a building where there are restrooms, using restrooms. And it started to filter into people even going into the academy. Dormer, yeah.
the old building, yeah.
And so we could have worked out a deal with the academy for tennis to, use the restrooms. We would have cleaned them for July and August, but we decided, let's not do that. Let's just make a clean break from that. So we went with the porta potties, which we thought would just be for this year,
Mhm.
because there had been discussion about the town building some permanent restrooms, I think on the library land in the future. Well, our future was hopefully next year. So the porta potties were a complete disaster. I'm calling Mark every week to get them cleaned. We have the New England Tennis Holidays there, and it was just an extremely bad scene for our tennis guests to go into those facilities. I can't even call them facilities, I don't think. So I'm here to see if we can move these restrooms up the chain. I think it's very important for a bunch of reasons. One of which is the aesthetics and the experience for our guests here in the summer. You know, whether it's the New England Tennis Holidays, the Waterville Valley Tennis Center was ranked 13th in the world. I think we will quickly lose that ranking if people start commenting on our restroom facilities there. We had talked about maybe putting them down in our building by Court 8. But the New England Tennis Holidays now have that for their office and their video room. And also, we felt that that would not be a good location with all the bikers and hikers, everybody walking down in between all the courts during tournaments and whatnot. So we think that the northern part of that facility is the best spot for it. So I don't know if this is something that goes on a ballot, or whether you need some extra funding for this. But we'd like to make the tennis center, White Mountain Athletic Club would like to make a recommendation that this move up the chain and try and have construction in the spring. So have them available for the summer of 2023.
The answer to your question is a yes to both. That it would, I think, have to go in front of town.
Yeah,
Town
it's
meeting
not
to-
on- It's not
Yeah.
on the CIP.
It's the first I ever heard of bathrooms behind the library. Is that something that was?
Well, the only town land that we have.
Well, I know, but I've never heard of that discussion before about having bathrooms back there.
No, I think you talking about you were using, not the library
No,
bathroom. There were-
I think it's just that was the only land that we could do it on
We did
unless the
talk
academy has land or the
Right.
ski area has
Right.
land.
Last year, when the BBTS got their academic certification and they became a real school, it became an issue. And I think that's what, a year and a half ago or so you came.
Yeah,
Initiative
it
from the
came,
board.
so we've been accredited for 5 years now. This has been, you know, we were funding the cleaning and maintenance of bathrooms. That was a lease agreement that we had with the mountain dating back from 2006. That we would provide a public restroom facility.
That's what the ski resort.
That was with the ski resort.
Okay,
We've never had an agreement with the tennis center, but that was an understanding that the public restrooms would be in our building. That dates from 2006. That lease was renewed biannually and then annually the last few years. It became increasingly untenable, first of all, through COVID. And then that was really when things came to head. And then as town got busier and busier, it became a truly acute issue. As you said, we had guests walking into individual students' bedrooms looking for bathrooms, interrupting classes constantly this time of year, constantly. And I don't think that's hyperbole now that you're seeing how much the restrooms are getting used, that it is pretty constant. So I've been raising this issue for over a year now, that the short fix, as Tom graciously said, is that I can just lock our buildings and that's fine. That solves the safety issue for my campus, but it creates an issue for the town. So rather than just unilaterally take an action, I've tried to present that this is a problem that needs a solution.
right. And we thought maybe
And you
the
guys are right.
porta potties would be
Yeah.
a temporary workaround or.
Yeah, and I also think that
Solution.
the porta potties were a measure. How much are these things actually getting used? Is this for just out here crying wolf or not? And I think it's not. They're pretty gross. They get a lot of use.
Was this though, just the company, I mean, was it overuse or just the company not fulfilling the
Well, they were
contract?
They were used a
A
lot,
lot,
and the company failed a lot.
right. But if the company didn't fail with even all this use, any idea if that would have,
It would have been much better if
It
they
would have
were
been
there every Thursday.
Well, they
every-
were
supposed to be there
were
twice.
Well, they
supposed to be
weren't.
there
They
twice
go
a
3
Right.
weeks and not see.
no, they were supposed to be there twice a week. And
Twice
that's
a
what I'm, if they had been there twice a
It
week,
never happened.
okay.
No, but if it had.
And if it had
If it had happened,
I think it would have been much better.
it would have been much better.
Right,
There's still,
You know,
like
so.
the Warriors
Right.
weekend. So that was before we finished before we graduated, so we
Yeah.
were there yesterday. The Warriors weekend, I think during there's a class going on right now. We saw 40 people use those restrooms within.
yeah, I remember when there's an event, then it's gonna potentially overwhelm, at least if there are only
Were they
Only
two? Were they there? Were they there because of riding the lift?
Yeah.
So I thought Tim said he didn't have a problem.
Well, this is not his issue. I think it was,
Well, he's never there. I mean,
right.
I'm there too.
Well, Mark and I, as I recall, talked to the ski resort about this, to Tim, and if I'm remembering correctly, I'm sorry he's not here to address this, but the response was that he didn't see it as an issue for the lift,
Mhm.
so that, and that's where he left it.
Yeah, that's. all
Okay.
Well and good. I
You know-
just wondered if this is something that could,
Well, Tom, the timeline that you're talking
Is-
about
yeah.
is too fast. There's no money right now for the design of them. And.
I mean, we're talking quite a large, in terms of sewage,
right,
connecting the
you have a
sewage and the
connection.
building,
It's gonna take some.
and then someone, and maintenance, so it'll be an
Right.
operational, but so we're talking hundreds of thousands,
Well,
tens of thousands,
tens of thousands at least.
tens of thousands.
Depending on how many, actual
How-
bathrooms. you
How we
have
wanna, how
And
big
how
we
you
want,
want to
right?
structure it. So it's not inconsequential. We can add it to the 23 budget request.
That
but
will
we
go in
won't
front of
get
the town,
Money until March.
right?
And then we can start working on it after then, but I don't think, given the construction climate right now, I can't see us having it built by next summer. I
as
really,
long as we get it rolling. And as long as we have a company who can service these things next summer.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was brutal.
What about, gas stations give you a key to go to their restroom? What if it's a tennis issue primarily? What if you had a key at the front desk at your tennis center? And somebody has to come in and get a tee, and it's attached to a tennis racket or something, so it's and that controls that only tennis players go over and use.
Access to,
So I think that would probably still not work, just because, number one, there's wear and tear for sure. And then secondly, this is a security issue, right? The elementary school would, even if you're in critical distress, you're not gonna walk into the elementary school and expect to use the student's restroom. It's a little different setup here in town with the rec department, but that,
but it's a high school.
it's a high school for
Yes.
sure. We did have Homeland Security come out and take a look at it, and that was a major red flag for them, is that there's public access to an academic building. They would prefer us to replace all our windows with bulletproof glass, which is not in the cards.
Mm.
The least we can do. General public.
The only, and this is probably too far ahead of what we're looking at, but the bathrooms that are out at depot camp. I mean,
That type of
there's
bathroom,
obviously already a bathroom that's been designed and built that looks like that. And that place is mobbed all the time, and people are.
And it's always
all the
clean.
time. And it's always clean, and I don't know what that's all about, but I mean, is that something that we should be looking at?
That type of bathroom.
Yeah,
is it
and I
less
mean, even,
expensive?
is there already a design?
Or a composting kind of a facility.
Is there already a design there so that we don't have to go through the engineering process? Can we call up the Forest Service and say, give us the plans that you used to build that bathroom?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, we could explore that. Composting potentially. I think the bottom line, Tom, is that it's not gonna be possible to get something there by next year. We'll probably have to go back to the porta potties
If we,
with a better company. While we're looking at these other I mean, when we do the budget, when we have our budget discussions, it's possible we can look at if we want to go down that road and just put it in front of the town and let the town decide if they want to spend tax money on bathroom facilities in the north end.
Is there a process in the budget conversation to get a ballpark estimate? Because I think if in this very experienced room, we're throwing around from hundreds of.
Oh, no, we would have to. We won't put anything in front of the town without
Yeah.
without
do it
a
as part of the CIP.
about a solid without a solid estimate. But even then, getting that is gonna be.
I would think Tennis Holidays would be a lot happier if they had a small bathroom in that Court 8 facility. That building, instead of,
Tom
I
doesn't
mean,
have water.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
They don't have water in any of.
There's
their
got water
buildings.
all over the tennis courts.
They have water.
It's sewage.
It's sewer.
It's sewer
a
line.
Sewer line.
Well, I mean,
That we would have to install.
They have to
Or
run
you'd
that,
have to put a septic system out in,
Or you-
where the pool used to be.
if that would be possible.
Sorry, Mark, you want to say something?
No.
No,
Say.
please, I
No,
mean,
I'm
it's,
good.
well,
No,
but
I-
we need to know, so,
During the- No, I think as part of the CIP process, we'll look at it, we'll look at different, pre-engineered drop-in facilities, whether it's a composting toilet, whether it's some sort of, structure that can be connected to the sewer quickly. We'll look at all of that, so we don't have to engineer a complete building or whatever. We're gonna have to bring the library trustees in.
The library already has a bathroom,
Well,
so
it's just the board. That land is town land, but you're gonna need to tell them that,
sure.
we're using part of it.
that we're using
Or
part of
we
it.
will plan to use part of it.
Or you have to get permission of some other landowner to put it on their
Yes.
property.
But if you have the
Or it's-
existing bathroom, suppose you don't touch the existing bathroom at the library. But on the side of the library, you could put something that's right adjacent to it for the ease of connecting to sewer. So you have a small
Mhm.
attachment to the library building that's separate,
A separate entrance.
a separate
I think you're
bathroom.
gonna find that the
Yeah.
library trustees are gonna want this as far away from the library. as
I'm sure they will.
Right,
So
and it's a good piece of land, though, I mean, it's 2 acres,
it's about an acre and 3/4.
acre and 3/4.
But if you're playing on court 8, are they really gonna walk across
Yeah.
all that
Well,
way over?
that's the other.
they do now. Yeah, they used to walk all the way into the academy building.
Be
Where
easier
you
if they
put
park
it,
their
they
cars
will
down
go.
that end too,
So wherever you put it, that's where they're gonna go.
And I
Okay.
also, I mean.
Literally.
Due respect to Tim and the Mountain, this is absolutely a thing that the chairman's customers are using every day. Every day. I mean, there's no question. That's a population driver. So that side of things is.
But we do have a different company coming in next year, correct?
We hope so.
if we were to follow up with,
If we
with the
go
porta
with-
potties, again, while we're trying to
Porta
figure out
potties.
this
Sure,
issue, and then let's
Reached out
determine.
to Rouse, and they're all booked up for next year. However, I did connect with Randalette's, they're out of Ackland, Randalette's septic systems, and they've given me a quote for next year.
For two, is it possible we may need more than two?
The quote was for 4, Packard's failed.
Oh,
and-
well, two
Yeah,
on
two.
Packards and two on, and Tori, you'd still be amenable to using,
Yeah, like I said, I want to be part of the solution.
Using the
I just wanna
land
Try to keep.
to put these.
People out of the.
That's good. Can I throw one more thing out? Of
course.
Is it, I talked to Mark earlier about the golf course and the parking and all of that.
Mhm.
Is there something that the select board could give me? Or those who are approached by Craig on the whole situation that kind of explains what the rules are and the safety issues and all that sort of thing, so that I can respond to them in a more.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
well, he's
A
also
handout.
the president of the WVRA right now, so.
Yes, and so
It came up at your last meeting, right?
today.
Was this
yeah,
a consequence of some parking tickets that were,
yes.
because I saw them, I think it was a
Well,
week.
I sent you the email from Craig.
I
forwarded you-
saw that, but it wasn't addressing I don't think it addressed the parking on Snows Mountain Road.
Not on Snows Mountain Road in particular, but parking.
And are you- so-
overall.
oh, I
So I know where
right.
he's coming from. I got that side of the story. And I'm
Right.
just wondering if I could get the select board's side of the story just from
Oh,
not
okay,
a legal sense, but just
Right.
from your sense. I mean, I know that at our athletic club, we were ticketed, our people were ticketed. when they were out on the street of
Right.
49.
Right,
And we reconfigured and redesigned our whole parking lot to accommodate
Right.
that and ended it.
right.
So, I mean, I'm
um,
just, as I said to Craig today, you purchased a golf shop. And you have morphed it into this big facility that does not have adequate parking.
Right.
And, you know, he has this comeback on that. So I'm just, that I'm kind of on board with where you guys are, the Department of Public Safety, just so that I'm a little more educated on that, that's all.
So I think over the last couple of years, I've been the select board member that tried to take the lead on parking. We've had a couple meetings with DPW and DPS about on-street parking, which is what you're talking about, and other areas in town, especially in the north end, where we could have on-street parking. The issue with Snow's Mountain is that,
Let me, because you got.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Let me.
It's okay.
let me get
I wanna make
together-
sure
I gotta
you
be back
understand.
on the court at 4. Let's get together and let me just
Fair enough.
hear you out so that I know the other side of
Fair enough.
the story, that's all.
Okay,
Okay,
we just gotta get to before you leave, right?
When you get.
Or when you get back, how do you want to
Plenty
do
of
it?
time. Yeah, when I
Okay.
get back.
When I get back?
I thank you.
All right, Tom.
Thanks.
All right. And thank you. Thank you, Tori,
Just keep
again.
filling out.
I think I had a brief conversation with Mark about a week or two ago, but I think we should schedule a meeting with Craig, kind of a working meeting and see whether we can, you know,
Do you
be,
want me there?
I don't know. See whether we can be proactive in trying to help him solve his problem.
Actually, I agree, and I separately have talked to Mark about upcoming, even before we got the email from Craig, which we can talk about now since you brought it up, or Tom brought it up, about being prepared for this upcoming season. We're going to have on-street parking. I think our agreement with Craig was on-street parking until the road gets repaved. And now we thought that was going to happen this year. It didn't. So he's going to get another year. It's clearly not been enough, that stretch of 8 cars that we have on Valley Road, the end of Valley Road. And I had talked to Mark about possibly adding a few more spots on Boulder Path from the entrance of his maintenance area south towards the intersection with Valley, Snowsbrook, and Boulder Path, where they're doing all the construction there. Just as throwing a thought out, because that was one of the areas that DPS and DPW recommended as a possible area for.
I think you put 2 or 3 more cars going towards Valley Road too.
Well, we've had that discussion, and as far as I know, DPS is still saying that they're not comfortable
yeah, they want.
going
people to be able to
further
see it Further.
in that direction.
What about, this might be crazy, but I look at it every morning. What about across the street from where we have the municipal parking right now? That area, like that starts where, the flowers are and it goes right
I
along.
mean,
there.
it's on the front of Tri-Pyramid.
No, I'm
No?
talking about
Oh.
right at the clubhouse.
Oh, just directly across the street. I don't know,
Well, it'll be difficult with
We'd have-
parking on both sides.
yeah,
As far as
Right.
snow removal and stuff. I would want
right.
Jim to talk to you about that.
Okay,
Yeah, they
I
did
mean,
not
I-
recommend that area.
That was one of the areas, there is some drainage that's in there that I think if we plowed snow into it, we might.
I carry with me because this issue comes up,
Yeah. Yeah,
where they recommended possible,
what we
sorry,
did,
it's the red areas. The green is where we are now, and the red areas are where they thought we could, but with further discussion, not that we should.
Margaret, the area across Lost Pass Road, going back towards Golden Heights, that area of Valley Road, across from
The sidewalk, you're on the other side,
From the sidewalk.
clubhouse,
right,
across from the
right.
sidewalk.
right.
Where the
That
bill-
would be
before
one
you get-
place that we could
Right.
look at, but Craig had a problem with that when I talked to him about it. In the distance that people have to walk to get to
Right.
I know, I'm just saying,
Right.
there are pluses and minuses to all the spots.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Let's
you know,
let's schedule a working meeting with him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. well, I think we should talk among ourselves too.
The other thing I think is the
Yeah.
issue of the tennis parking on his land.
Mhm.
Is between he and Tom. I
That's right.
don't think that's a Tom, I don't think that's a quid pro quo thing with the town.
That's right.
It's he and Tom. How we solve the problem with Craig is different. It's a different issue.
Well, because we've told Craig
Right.
that the town, as far as the right of way, we're okay with the parking being.
It could be,
It's up to him.
it could be parallel parking along Snows Mountain Road and not be on his property.
Right,
it would
but
be
it
in
would
the
be
town.
very limited. It
We
would
go
be
from
like
about 15 to 20 cars to
5 or 10.
5, 7, 8, something like that. I've thought about that as well. I agree with you, Bob. And again, we need to talk to Craig, but his response to that is if I expect a quid pro quo. If I'm allowing people to park
It's not,
on my property,
to me, it's not our issue. It's between,
Okay.
that issue is between. he
I
and tennis.
understand what you're saying. I'm just telling you what he says. This was his issue the last time we talked to him, that once we take away the on-street parking on Valley, that he would seriously consider not allowing parking on his property on Snows Mountain, and then we'd have to revert to a parallel parking, which would push Tori, it'd impact you, because it will push the parking, I think, over to your parking lot,
Which is not.
which is non-public, but again, you've been gracious to allow people to park there, especially if they're going to hike up Cascades, let
Going
alone
to the library.
going to the library or going to the ski lift or any and all of that. So thank you for being a good citizen. All right, so I guess we need to talk
We'll
to
schedule it.
with
with
Craig and with
So he had other issues too. He had the.
Yes.
the
Yep.
Police ticketing and going inside to get, try to get.
Yeah, he had
cars
two
moving
other
instead of
issues.
ticketed. I don't know what the
Um,
police aren't here. I
do-
think we need their
do-
input on that.
Do you want Chief to come down and talk about that, or?
he surely can. I'll tell you what my reaction to that was, that wouldn't it be much simpler for him to have a sign on his door? The entrance to the golf club?
He's had signs before.
And
He's
people are
had-
still-
He's
I
put
think
signs
we
out
need
that
to
said parking
hear
over
Chief's.
here. People ignore them.
Okay, but then, I mean, that's,
And then
there
they
are
get tickets
signs
and then
there,
It's our fault.
and then, okay, I get it. But yeah, let's see what Chief Payer has
But,
to
you
say
know,
about it.
I would also say that I think that our police use some good judgment in some of
Of
these
course,
circumstances.
right.
For instance, on the 4th of July, it was pretty crowded at the club. And there were people that were parked on the road by the club. But typically on the 4th of July, that is not a day when the police go around and ticket cars for on-street parking, because there are so many people that usually come into town for that. And so I did my own little survey. There were 4 cars that were out on the road, and Craig, was talking to me about his concern that they were going to get tickets. They did not have tickets on them. And an hour later, when I left, they still did not have tickets on them. So I think they're using some judgment, around some of these larger events that occur.
It's event.
Yeah,
event.
yeah. But I think they need to know. And I think Craig is trying to tell us when these events are likely to occur
Well,
over the next 9 months.
That's his point. It's on Saturday. I mean, he's identified
Yeah.
specific days where
Mhm.
parking is an issue. At the same time, Bob is absolutely correct, I believe that, and I think Tom mentioned it as well. Is increased business from a golf club to, I don't know, country club or what have you, he holds events there, and the parking is not sufficient. For the activities he would like to run, and he's asking us for help, and I understand that too. So yes, with regard to Craig Larson's email, one of the things he asked was whether the police officer on duty could stop into the golf clubhouse and
My
Try to-
response to him was, because he asked me that the other day.
okay, so you've talked to him about.
Oh, yeah, I've already talked.
Okay.
Yes.
I said, if we have nothing else going on and there's like one car there. Sure, we'll try to stop it if we can. If there's one car parked out there that's illegally, but I said if it's a busy day, which most Saturdays are, and there's a lot of cars parked out there, we're not gonna be able to come in and do that, so.
Okay, so the answer is, you can look at it either qualified yes or a qualified no, depending upon what spin you wanna put on that.
It's just a tough thing to do because.
No, I understand.
We're not doing it for
Well,
any other.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would urge us not to get into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Process, because then a situation when you don't do
Right.
Yeah.
it becomes contentious. I mean,
Right.
I really
Because
think
you
it's.
didn't do it,
it-
they
because
shouldn't
you
have
didn't
gotten
do
a
it, they
ticket.
shouldn't have
yeah,
got
you
a
did it last time,
And-
so like,
I mean, if,
So.
the
I mean,
posted
100
signs-
things Can happen.
right,
Police calls, fire calls, EMS, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
it's just too difficult to.
well, let's talk to Craig. I mean, we could consider perhaps if there's other parking, we may be able to open up, perhaps.
His other lot is never full.
Well, that is part of an issue. Now he's paved part of it, so maybe maybe that'll be a help, but we can talk to him about.
So I'll email him back and
Yeah.
say, you got the board got his
Mhm.
email. They wanna sit down and schedule a time to just talk about this stuff.
I
can
would,
I ask another question, Patrick?
Sure.
It looks to me like, where the temporary parking is on the other side of the road. It looks to me like we could easily allow a couple more cars going towards Valley Road. It's like 100 feet or 100, it's a long ways.
Yeah, there's the distance and that's, as long as we're within that distance from the stop sign. we're fine.
It seems to me it'd be a little bit of a concession to them to say, hey, we're gonna let you put 2 more cars there or something. I'm just,
well, why don't we look at that again?
Yeah.
Look at it again, and see if we can.
I think
We
if
can
he thinks,
try.
if he thinks we're trying to help him, I think that would go a long ways. And I just look at it, and it looks like it's, it's gotta be 100 feet.
And I imagine that's often an area where you see people parked illegally just in front.
Actually, the worst
Yeah.
part is either there or wrapped around now towards Deborah Road.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
issue we've had the last couple of weekends is, right on Lost Pass again.
Okay,
So
I don't think we'd have to put material in. I think if just the sign moved a couple of car lengths.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
go look at it again.
we
and
can
see what you
talk,
think.
we can. That's why I think maybe we need to talk among ourselves, perhaps just before we talk to Craig. And I mean, you weren't here when we had these conversations for the past several years, but I think the board has worked very hard to try to accommodate and help Craig to date.
And he as well has done some things. He expanded some of his parking over at the main golf course. He actually
Yes.
put in additional parking spaces and he's paved over in the other area. And
Yeah.
I can also tell you personally, like on a busy night, like a scramble night or that kind of thing. He has no problem walking up to one of us and say, would you mind moving your car across the
Yeah,
street?
I did
So
that
that
last
we-
week.
And I do that now almost every week. So he is trying to have
Yeah.
people do that.
And he's talked about
Yeah.
paving a path, a golf cart path
Yes,
between his
yes.
golf.
Yeah.
So, sure, let's set up a meeting with him on this. It was something, I think we had talked, something on my agenda, is something to try to get ahead of before the tubing season
Mhm.
and try to avoid these unnecessary arguments.
Sure.
On that same meeting, we'll talk about the bus till 6 o'clock.
Anything on his.
Yeah,
anything
Okay,
on
yeah,
that-
that's, yeah, we probably should have that meeting. I think you probably want that meeting sooner rather than later then,
Yeah, I'm gonna try it next week.
if we add the bus to it,
Next week
especially if we had, because the other one we
beginning-
could push off.
The beginning of the. fall.
Okay, because I think he's
But-
asking
but getting
for,
the next. Before your next meeting,
which is the
the
28th.
28th, before the 28th.
Okay, and we can discuss that then. All right, if you can let him know and
Sure.
see when he can break away, every time I go by, he's working.
Yeah.
Either he's on a tractor or on a mower or
Can we
on
either
something.
do it- Can we do it morning or later afternoon?
See what his schedule is like.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, we could, then we can check our schedules.
Do it
That
on
would
the
be
course.
While playing golf, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
we can go over there if
Yeah.
you want.
well,
and just do the board meeting announcement for over there, and that might help.
well. I kind of, I don't know, I think here and it'd be a special board meeting and we could,
Or you might want to be on site and walk the area with it.
Yeah,
Might be a way, let's talk. about
let's
it.
think about that for a moment.
Okay.
All right, so we get back to our agenda. Well, actually, if I can, since Chief, you're here, anything from, anything you'd like to bring up from DPS?
No, it's really busy.
Yeah,
Interesting calls lately, so. I'm gonna do an article, I think in the Wigwag, me and Mark are working with Coleman about the speed limit signs, they're interested in the sign out here. School, we start reading at the school here soon on Fridays, we're gonna do recess and reading, we're just gonna pick a grade and go do it. Oh, actually, next week I have a safety presentation for parents at the school at 5 p.m. on the 19th, so they spread the word. It's just what's on the internet nowadays. I think it's very difficult for parents to know all the things, and I have tools for different websites they can look at to do different things. So just in a good group with the school and working with these guys too on just different things in the community and stuff. And Coffee with a Cop, October 5th is in
yep, Chief,
Town Square at 8:30.
Yeah. Chief Noyes mentioned that as well, and, okay. Great, and we can talk about the, anything you want to say about the traffic counts, at this
No,
point?
the traffic counts were this, very similar to July, up a little bit.
The patterns are clear.
The
It's
patterns
very
are-
interesting to have the actual
So I did the
numbers.
From yours, it was May
Yeah.
3rd to September 7th,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I was able to do it without having to really count them.
right.
I was able to get the program to do it for me. It was 123,000 cars coming into the valley,
and that stretch,
Between May.
May.
May 3rd to September 7th.
right. And I presume at this point, we're looking at it right after Columbus
Well, we
Day,
should see a drop.
Should
off.
see
Drop.
some-
and then December, January, February.
And when hockey starts.
Oh, yes,
Hockey starts next weekend,
The
so
23rd, I got an email today.
Right.
Yep.
You guys ready for it?
is that this weekend or the weekend after?
Following weekend.
And the water and sewer numbers are tracking. I talked to Dylan this morning about our
Okay,
daily numbers. And the weekend numbers, and they are dropping off a bit now. So
Mhm.
we're going into that fall slower period,
Yeah.
especially midweek. But, you know, it's still.
but still, the numbers are, the
it's a
numbers,
higher
right,
dip.
it's
than
not
we've
the sort
had
of dip that
previously.
we've had in the past. Right. All right, thank you. So, we have no minutes to approve.
Well, can we do the community power thing?
Oh, yeah.
I was, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was my next session. Since, let me rephrase that. Since we have no minutes to approve, why don't we just move to Kim, who's been waiting here patiently?
Thank you. I know you understand community power, but I'm hoping that maybe 15 people will watch this. So if you don't mind.
We usually get 2 to 3 times as many on,
30?
yeah,
Okay.
watching it later.
Okay, watching it later. Okay,
Right.
Great. So again, community power is the bulk purchasing of electricity. We know that our electricity rates have doubled. In many cases doubled, so they're really, really high. And so with community power, we have more options on the table. We can negotiate for better rates. We can start a reserve account for projects, potentially our own energy projects, where we could then purchase that electricity. We could also purchase electricity from nearby energy projects. So it gives us more options on the table. And if folks don't want to participate in it, they don't have to. And so it gives us more options to save the ratepayers money as we move forward to in the next 20 years, when we know there's going to be lots of fluctuations in our electricity rates. So there's my elevator pitch, and I can do that for you all because I know you know. So we are moving forward with community power, with drafting the community power plan, and we are anticipating having a draft finalized by the end of October. Part of the legal process, since this is this is an RSA that was passed into law by Governor Sununu in 2019, There's a very specific process that you have to follow. So we have to have a committee publicly recognized in the minutes by this committee so that we are following that RSA. So I've come here today to ask for the approval of 8 board members to serve as our community power committee for the purposes of drafting a community power plan to then be submitted. Well, we're gonna have some public hearings, and then we'll have it on the ballot for voting in the March 2023 town meeting. So that's why I'm here. And I also can give you an update if you're interested on, kind of where we are in the process of things. Mark, should I list off the names of people?
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. So we are also dissolving the Renewable Energy Committee, since most of the work that we've been doing falls under community power at this point. So we are retaining all of those members, plus adding 1 more member. So Alan Burko, Kelly Cannon, Linda Coleman, Eric Levy, David McCabe is the newer member. We have the business community represented by Tom Prendergast, Kimberly Rawson, and Terry Roper.
Sounds like it's a
So,
group.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they would be the community power group, and then they would also carry on the few initiatives that are not related.
Electric
directly-
vehicle
Light bulb.
vehicles,
station, light bulb. Let's not forget light bulbs,
You know, little-
right?
Little things like that, so they'll carry on.
Anything with
the
power,
CEC,
right?
Anything
With
that has to do
power,
with power.
It's Kim's
It
committee.
sounds like kind of a big committee, but I guess you already have those people, so.
It exists essentially as a renewable energy
All
committee.
but one of them are on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you were just starting right now, I think you'd have a 5 or something, not.
Yeah,
but-
Yeah, we've been at this ad hoc since 2019. So, and then as newer folks come, they're interested. And we made a big effort to make sure the business community was represented, because they're beneficiaries of this initiative as well. So where things stand right now is, as a committee, we've been drafting letters in the wigwag. We've also been working together to have a media kit available, so that when we have our public hearing, which is a really important part of this RSA, it's well advertised and the public is well informed, and we want to make sure we choose an event to tag onto for a public hearing that will draw the largest crowds possible. We're also going to make an effort to have a lot of smaller meetings with stakeholders within the community, so that we are answering as many questions and getting as much feedback as possible. So that's where things stand. And again, we'll hopefully have a draft finalized by the end of October. Any questions?
Okay, so,
a vote to
Yep.
establish this.
Yep. but first I want to just, Kim, thank you so much for all this great work you've done on this issue. I think you've shown what, the value of, a committee can be, especially when you have a committee chair that is not only passionate and really wants to move forward on things, but really understands the processes and procedures to make it happen. It's really great to have people like you in town. So what I like to do is make a motion to dissolve the Select Board's Renewable Energy Committee, and in its place and more, recognize and establish the Waterville Valley Community Power Committee, which will be organized and follow the rules as detailed by the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission and the appropriate RSA, whose number I do not know at this
13:15,
time.
3:15.
Let us stipulate it's 3:15 or whatever it is. So is that good enough for the motion? Do I have a second?
That work for
So
you?
we just need to have a list of the community members' names, committee members' names in the minute for the legal.
All right, and please, and we thereby we are appointing them to that committee with Kim as the chair, and you will organize them yourself at whatever is allowed by the regulator, or however you see fit for making it work. I don't know if you want a vice chair or secretary or however, whatever the required. Okay, second, we got a second, so all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Thank you for your time and thank you for your vote.
Oh, yes, now we have
Linda's.
We have Linda while you're here. Linda has asked us a question about,
She in there. Linda.
no, we're not doing Zoom.
Oh,
No Zoom, no.
She sent an email.
She sent an email asking if the board would consider a
Yes.
waiver for EV charger the permits for EV charger installation. And I think the Golden Eagle is planning to put in one. That's what her email said. I think this is a great idea. I think the issue simply would be for a waiver for a public, for a public good would be that it'd be open to the public.
Right, I think if there were that stipulation, if you would be
For the
willing to
waiver.
waive the fee for the building permit. As long as it's public access.
Right.
Does that seem
Yes.
reasonable?
Yes. So so let me just a clarifying question. So.
Yep.
Again, these, whether it's public or private, is largely up to the associations.
Right.
So if an association approached you and said, we will have public access, they could then apply for the waiver.
Yes, I think that's how we're approaching it.
Well, but I think
Yeah.
you're going one step further than that. You're saying if if Dave gets an application for a building permit,
Right,
that is a public access EV charging
Right.
station,
right,
you're okay with us waiving? the
Correct.
fee?
correct.
That's where, so it's kind of automatic. It isn't that they have to apply for a separate waiver.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it's not a two-step
It's only a
process.
blanket waiver.
It won't be
if
a
has
two-step
public
process.
access.
Right.
They
Okay,
they
even if it's
apply
a hybrid.
Even if it's hybrid, whatever it is,
Okay.
it's still,
Right.
it's gonna be waived as
Yeah.
long as it has public access.
They have to apply for a building permit anyway.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and so we can, I didn't
So
mean
if
a
you would
two-step.
make that motion, then we'll have it on the record.
I already did a difficult one. Does somebody else want to do this one?
I move that we waive the fee for EV installations. The building permit fee for EV installations that are made available to the public.
Discussion?
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous that if we do that, that'll discourage other associations, condo associations from putting one in, because they'll say, oh, it's open to the Golden Eagle. All I gotta do is go over to the Golden Eagle. So why should we put one in?
May I respond to that?
Sure.
So these, in most cases, are level 2 chargers. So it's advantageous for each association, which means it's gonna take longer to charge a vehicle. They're not fast chargers because they're cost prohibitive in most cases. So folks are gonna want to have their vehicle near where they're living to charge, because it's gonna take, I think, around 5 to 6 hours to charge their vehicle on a level 2 charger.
And by public access, I think we're not trying to,
No, but
No,
so you're at Sunnyside condos and you know the Golden Eagle has one across the street.
Right.
You just go across the street, we don't have to put one in at Sunnyside because they got one right across the street. I'm just being a devil's advocate here. I'm afraid that we might be discouraging future expansion of this by doing this.
I think it's
Except
the
if there are
fee is
3 electric vehicles at Sunnyside, one of them's gonna complain that the thing is never available because somebody.
well, I
else-
mean, there is the issue of making it publicly available doesn't mean that the association can't specify rules for the use of
Right,
that
exactly.
charger
Yeah.
or cost. rules.
I mean, if nobody else is concerned with that, I'm okay, but I'm just,
Well,
That's actually, it's a very good point. Yeah.
Have Linda not,
Yeah.
so Linda isn't just working with the Golden Eagle. I mean,
Right.
she had 10,
16 last time. yeah?
16 different associations or groups.
if she doesn't
attend her meetings.
think
So I don't
this will
think it's
discourage
gonna be
others.
a problem.
Probably some is just laying back to see how this is
Some are,
gonna,
yes. some
play
are
out.
laying back.
If
But
I'm
I-
not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, the fee is not exorbitant.
No, no.
oh, no, I think,
I don't
No.
think that this fee would.
no, that's not an issue.
It's just kind of a sweetener of thank you for public access.
Right, that's why we're doing, I
Okay.
mean, I think we're gonna see these. I think we're gonna see a lot of applications for the installation of these. And, I think if they give public access, we should encourage it because we're
Yeah.
hearing that that's what people.
Yeah.
And it's what little we could do.
It's
I
a
mean,
little bit that we can do,
we don't
because we
really
have
have
no
property
land.
to
So,
install them ourselves, and I would imagine the lodges would be before maybe the
That's
homeowners
it is a good
association.
Concern to bring back to Linda and the
Yeah.
group as they're meeting, that, you know, how is this exactly gonna work?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to the software, because the software, you can program it to regulate for public and private use, depending on which system you choose. But it is a very legitimate concern, especially until we as a community transition to having more EV charging facilities available. Because right now, there's a lot of people that show up at Windsor Hill without any electricity left.
But it's up to Windsor Hill to decide how much to
Right.
charge
Yep,
public,
yep. It's
general, as opposed to
Totally.
residents of
Yep.
Windsor Hill.
Right, and right now it's
Program.
completely private.
Yeah.
So.
I would
yeah.
just point out that I have a slow charger for my vehicle that plugs into regular household power, and I have been known to take that on the road with me with an extension cord.
Did you want to admit that on video, Margaret?
And I'm just pointing out, there are other ways to charge your car besides relying on a charging station, particularly up here where we don't have a great deal of difficulty with people
Yeah,
doing naughty things, you know. it's-
and we'll leave that just lying there. Okay, so we had a motion.
We'll bring your concerns back.
Okay.
We had a motion.
We had a motion. I will second that motion. Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your vote.
Thank you for
Yep.
coming by, Kim.
Thanks.
And again, thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Okay, now, so we've really bollocksed up the agenda.
I've
So-
been checking them off. so
Yeah, I just did. So let me go back to the top. I know we have to get through some more department head reports, but why don't we use the financial update to do that and bring in the admin department report as part of that.
There you go. Any questions? on financial report?
So any questions on the
Why
financial
do
report?
we have yellow under, is it other government,
Go ahead.
other general government?
Yeah, so mid-August, I had reached out to Katie Smith at the Mountain, inquiring to why we haven't seen any invoices since May for
This
the,
is the shuttle.
for the shuttle bus.
Okay,
Yeah, and didn't get a response, so I pinged her again last week, and she did respond to me indicating that she wasn't clear that, it wasn't clear to her that they were to continue to build the town for the services, and she had wanted some proof or some evidence that that was actually, you know, the case. And I had sent her meeting minutes from our May 25th selectmen's meeting, where we had decided that we would continue to pay the Mountain for the bus services at the previously established rate of $46.29 a month
Mhm.
until an additional agreement was reached. So she has agreed to send those invoices along. I anticipate some further discussion.
And our financial report
Mhm.
hadn't been reflecting the monthly payments, so I just asked Steve to add it,
and that's the highlight,
and that's the
Right.
highlighted.
and
piece.
that's
So
encumbered, so it doesn't
that's
get stuck
encumbered
into
so that
the,
It doesn't get
stuck
stuck
into,
into the fund balance. at the
when we
end.
get to the end of the,
So she's gonna send us an invoice, we're anticipating, she'll send us an invoice for those back months.
that'll clear this out,
And that'll.
Mhm.
right? But we
that's
still
what
have
this-
to have the discussion
We
about,
still
it was
need
still-
to
right.
revisit. it.
Okay.
Yes.
any other questions on the financial report?
Since I'm new to this, when do we set the tax rate?
In early October is when we usually do it. We need to get the MS1.
MS1 from
report
from the assessors. I take it it didn't come in,
It did not, it won't
Okay.
come in until Friday. So
okay,
we need to have a special meeting next week so you can finalize the MS1.
send it
Um,
up to,
And then send it to DRA. Once they have that, they have all the other paperwork that they need. And then they'll give us a draft tax rate and you'll vote on it.
okay. Any other admin department happenings you'd like to tell us about?
Just a quick HR update. We had.
Sure.
We had Tony successfully, reach her 90-day mark last month. At the post office, sat down with her to evaluate her first 90 days and give her some goals and some things she can look at going into next year. I think, from our standpoint, she's doing a heck of a job. She's really kind of creating a new environment over at the post office that seems to be well received
Mhm.
by the residents, so. All good news there. Jason Fallman was the mechanic that we hired about 2.5
Look,
months
I go
ago.
back to the post office. I see sometimes on Saturdays, there's two people there. Is that just transitioning or?
Yeah, no, good point. We had hired Callie Foley into a part-time role to help support Mike Seeger, who was in the part-time role for many years. He had a medical leave over the summer. So we're gonna continue to keep both of them on. Really no impact to the budget where, you know.
They're just sharing the part-time that was Mike alone in the past.
part-time
On Saturday, Ian used to help support Mike quite
Yeah.
often, so.
Okay.
We're just continuing with that mindset, and I'll give Tony some increased support when she gets into her busy season here, coming up in November. Jason Paulman, the new mechanic that we hired about 2.5 months ago, will be reaching his 90-day mark at the end of the month. All great things to report there. He's been very proactive. He reached out to the state in his first month to get us set up, to get him set up to go and pick up inspection stickers and have that transition happen. So he's already inspected, I think, 80% of the fleet, which are due to be inspected by the end of the month. He's all positive feedback from his supervisor, Jim, and the rest of the team too. So we're happy there. And we have 2 openings. We have an opening for a wastewater treatment operator, one, where we opened that about 1.5 months ago, and I've seen 2 applicants.
And that's to help get someone on board now for the record.
Correct.
For we'll need 3 for the new wastewater treatment facility.
Ultimately 4.
4 when it comes fully online.
Correct.
So we need that time, this timing here to try to get somebody.
Well, and we're
Yeah.
also combining with the resignation of the water.
Right,
operator.
and that's the other,
That's the other.
so we're trying to look for
position.
1 person to fill
Well, no, we're looking for 2.
2 people.
But they will be cross-trained.
Got it, okay,
And licensing, we're trying to get licensed in either department
right,
as a minimum. But we prefer licensing in both,
right.
so.
So right now, just in terms of personnel, we have only 2 people handling wastewater and
At the end of the month, we
Water.
only have 2.
for
people.
wastewater
Well,
and
no, Jim is our.
he's licensed,
He's
he's licensed, okay.
So
But as a department head, we're not expecting to be
I
part of
don't
the
expect you to
rotation.
do the day-to-day.
Right,
So you're down to 2
we are down to 2.
operators. And we're trying to backfill that as quickly as we can.
And what's it look like? You mentioned you got a couple for the wastewater.
Couple applicants for the wastewater, both whom are from and currently live in Massachusetts. So they would both be looking to relocate.
Right.
One who Dylan and I phone screens this week. We're not going to invite to interview in person. The other we are, he'll be up next week to sit down and
Mhm.
talk to Mark, Dylan and I.
How competitive are you finding our salary, benefits and salary package that we offer?
We're short.
Okay,
At
well, I
least-
know we need to know. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
in
we
these
want
2
the,
scenarios,
right.
we're short. The one
Okay.
applicant that we're meeting with next week is asking for $90,000 as a salary. We haven't dove into the benefits discussion.
but I assume he's gonna want the standard benefit package. with
You
that.
can't differentiate.
Yeah, no, it'd be all the
Everybody.
all the
gets
same.
this.
And how does that differ? I mean, what's just in terms of salary, what's the
Uh,
difference?
30,000.
30.
So we going from
Does
60
that
to,
take into account that he doesn't pay income taxes in New Hampshire?
All of that.
All that is part of the discussion.
Yeah, if the interview goes well, we can talk through all that. That was my.
okay, and on the water side, any bites there
The
yet?
water I posted internally because I thought we had a little bit of internal interest. I have yet to post externally, but I will by the end of the week.
Are we looking to potentially train people for that?
They're gonna be.
They'll be cross-trained, but a new person coming in. I mean, do we need to start at a certain level,
We.
a licensing already?
prefer a license, a grade 1 license.
Right, and that's the
There
starting,
is
level.
a license that's called a grade 1A,
yeah,
where you can bring someone in off the street.
Yeah.
And give them OJT,
right,
but you still need about a year before they're ready to take that test, so. We may have to, I don't know. We'll
See what this
We'll
brings,
see what the
right.
response is
Yeah.
and we'll go from there.
Let me just, I'm sorry, do you have something? No. Let me just move quickly. I think one of the things we had on our calendar review, oh, I see, was a special,
Strategic plan.
a strategic plan. I'm not seeing
It's
it
in
now.
the, no, it's
No,
in
it's in
the,
the
it's in the
entry letter.
memo. It's in the memo.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought, yeah, and so I think that actually involves personnel costs. So I just wanted to bring it up now since we were talking about
Mhm.
personnel, and we're already talking about having a special meeting to discuss the tax rates. So I think it looks like solid. We're gonna have to meet in a special meeting. Is that okay with you guys to do both topics?
It's the
So-
time of year we do this.
We do this.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good great quote. I'm gonna steal that. We do
No,
this.
I mean, it's, budget is coming up. We
Right.
got-
All right, so we'll do both, this discussion on personnel costs. I think Mark has shown me some, analysis he's done with
Mhm.
regard to our pay structure
Right,
that, I think we
Right.
need to all look at.
and then we have the CPI to deal with.
And
once
that's,
again.
yeah, and that's gonna be what, 8.5 at least, something like
We'll
that,
we'll see what it ends up at.
The what?
in
What is
the
that?
December.
CPI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna work the COLA and everything all together. Steve's
Right.
been looking at the comparatives with other towns and we need to give you the over. the
Mhm.
whole
Right,
thing.
no, absolutely,
It rolls all.
right. And so the question in my mind is, we also talked about getting together with Craig next week. Do we want to have one large meeting, or do we want, I think, maybe. I don't know, I can go either way, it's up to you.
Make the Craig meeting separate.
Yeah,
Separate, okay,
There's already a lot. So
all right, do we want to,
I'm looking at.
do you wanna set that
Wednesday,
now?
A regular Wednesday time.
A week from today?
Wednesday afternoon. If you're available,
Excuse me.
What's the date?
22nd.
21st.
The 21st
21st at
at 3?
Is that for Craig?
No, that's.
No, I think we gotta, yeah, no, I think we have to just have these, well, whatever you guys.
21st at 3.
Yeah, I can go anytime on
Well,
the 21st.
I mean, our strategic plan would be to have all the department heads, I mean, to do basically what we did in April. And to revisit, because we said we were gonna do one 6 months.
Oh, so you're talking about larger than just a personnel portion of it, or just that
We
one
can do it
issue?
However you want, we can do personnel as a separate issue, or we can do a review of everything.
Oh, okay, let me
However you
backtrack a
want to.
bit then, maybe we don't need to do that. Next week, do we?
I would do Craig first.
Okay.
and So.
Well, then maybe we can do Craig and the,
Craig and the
and
tax.
and the
rate,
tax
I don't
rate.
think it's too much.
okay,
Or the MS1, not. the
yeah,
tax rate.
MS1,
The MS1.
right. Okay, why don't we, in 3 o'clock, because I'm good anytime on Wednesday, so. 9:21, 3 PM, special select board meeting to discuss on-street parking for the Water Valley Golf Club and the MS1. So we can we can send something off to DRA so we can later, as soon as possible, set our tax rate. Okay, and then we need to schedule,
The strategic.
street-
meeting.
yeah.
Why don't we do that next Wednesday?
all right.
Or 28th, maybe.
Or the
leading up to
28th.
Well, we have if we want it, well, we have a regular select board meeting on the 28th.
Yeah, there's usually too much during.
Yeah.
A regular. board
Meeting, so,
I
and
think it needs to be a
How much
separate-
time? Yeah, give us an idea of how much time you think. Not now, I mean, think about it,
Yeah.
that meeting will
Let's
take.
talk about it on the.
because I was just thinking of the one issue, but obviously you were thinking of a larger,
Well, yeah,
potentially a larger discussion.
We've got the whole, because once you look at the budget, I mean, the personnel stuff, we need some input.
It'll just
from you.
naturally flow
on
into the
the
large
budget.
other, okay. All right, let's set that meeting next
Yeah.
week. Okay, so in continuing with bouncing around, let's go back to the department reports. Is there anything further you want to say on admin? Okay,
The
DPW or rec?
DPW, you have the the MSW transportation costs.
Mm-hmm.
I did not. On the maintenance number in the 2022 column,
Yeah,
that maintenance cost does not include the major.
Repair?
Repair.
I see.
on if you want me to put it in there, so you can see a comparative number, that's one thing. That I could do.
but it wouldn't be
It's really
comparable.
It's really a capital,
Yeah, it wouldn't be
type of-
comparable to really across the early,
no, it won't be.
unless we had that sort of stuff, real major repairs included in it. That wouldn't be really.
Right, we
Yeah.
never, none of the other years include any
Capital repairs.
capital repairs like.
Like this,
full
as opposed to
transportation,
just
As
maintenance,
opposed to tires and.
Right,
Oil changes. and all
operation,
that. So
normal
if you
O
want
and
me
M
to
costs.
Leave that the way it is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. You guys fine with
Okay.
that? So a couple of
But we
things,
are
to just,
tracking,
Yeah.
pretty close on our.
It looks like
transportation costs.
if we're at, yeah, I know, if you look at, what was the percentage on, 69%, so we're looking at, we're roughly gonna be in the low 80s again.
Mhm.
If we're at 57. And, the cost. About the cost, of one question I wanted to ask, I noticed, we're already almost at the yearly cost for fuel.
Mhm.
Then, and we
That
still
will
got,
be up.
so we can expect that to jump up significantly, I imagine.
It will.
Last year, what the total was 46.54, and we're already at 43.01 and counting, right?
Yeah. And we have a pretty busy quarter. I mean, we'll have a month or so of slow time.
Right.
But once the hockey tournaments start up again and leaf peepers and then.
Then we'll
going
roll into the ski,
the
ski season,
Start,
so, and we'll get the other 25 trips or so in,
yeah,
if not more.
yeah. So I would expect that to be well over 5,000. Maybe even 6 by the time we're done.
Have we heard anything yet about the facility down south?
Not yet.
No.
I have reached out to them 4 times now. And Amy Dill, who's on our,
We asked her,
Solid
we
Waste
talked to her at the
Committee,
solid waste committee
she's
last week.
checking, because she works for Wind Waste.
Mhm.
So I don't know why they're not getting back to us. I mean, I've called them, we've emailed,
It's not a good sign.
no. And. the
When do we have
Penny
to
Bakers-
yeah, when
well,
do
the
we
Penny
have to-
Baker Solid Waste District is gonna have a meeting in October.
For the new
to-
contract,
To do the new contract, so we need to get something from Wind Waste before that.
something being either a definite no or a definite yes, does it have to be?
Well, a definite no,
No,
or
it clears the
some,
table,
some numbers, you
right?
know,
If it's a
like, what
yes,
is a comparable? You know, what's your per ton cost
Mhm.
projected to be over the next
Mhm.
couple of years?
when will we have to decide on the new contract if the discussions begin in October? When do you think they're
Well, I
gonna
would
want us to
expect
sign?
that they would want us to sign by November,
Right, and we would be part of those discussions too.
right?
Okay,
I don't know how else to get them to.
I mean, they seemed to be interested before based on the fact we were so small.
Yes,
Yeah,
how do we get out of this dilemma? Any idea? Other than going down and knocking on the
I
door?
could, I could go down and stand on their front steps until somebody talked to us, but I'll get another name from Amy. Maybe a higher up that
Yeah,
we can call,
okay,
I don't know. The email contact is very difficult because it's not an email address, it is a contact form on their website. So
info
you don't-
at or something like that.
Exactly, and
yeah,
you fill out, you know, what is your message type thing. And I never have much faith in those because.
Do we
I don't
have
know who's-
do they have on their website an about that shows who the people are that are in charge?
Not with email addresses, names, yes, but the email address is what I need. And maybe Amy can give that. to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
alrighty, anything further in DPW or the rec?
No, I did, going back just to the water and sewer
Mhm.
page. And the.
It's a very busy page, by the way. It's a very busy page.
Well, it
It's
is, and I
it's hard to
wanna-
get
I
on
just-
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
but I
want-
got it. It was easy to
So-
understand. The changes very much help.
Yeah, so in the comparison now, I've actually been telling you the wrong thing. Because the wastewater number that we have been giving you, I had put the title as wastewater treated. And that was not accurate. It is the raw wastewater coming into the plant. So that is the major change on this sheet.
Okay,
So what we are comparing right now is the amount of water that we are producing
mhm,
and the amount of raw wastewater
You're
that is
receiving.
coming
Okay.
into the plant. So these differences now, okay, are the actual differences between those two things. And the reason that that's important is a lot of the water gets, wastewater gets recycled within the plant. It doesn't all make it to the Mad River. Okay, so a single drop of water might go through the system a couple of times before it finally becomes effluent.
right.
So you need to be comparing the drinking water produced with the raw wastewater received. And I put a note over here, like what a positive number means.
Mhm.
So, so that you can look at it. The other thing that Dylan wanted me to highlight here is the wastewater received versus the water produced during the summer. Okay, so we've pulled out the summer months from these
Mhm.
annual totals, just to show you that we have a large drop off. We've had a large drop off in 2021, which is, we think, because of the
The
water
water
ban
restriction,
that
yeah.
restrictions that
Okay.
you put in about irrigation. So I don't know that for certain because we didn't track it by property or anything like that. And we don't have water meters on irrigation systems, just on the house itself. So, but that's the only explanation that we have for that big drop off that I highlighted.
But then for 2022. It didn't come back up to the 12 million. It's still at 11 million. When I look at drinking water produced,
In June to August.
right,
Is that to date? or-
Right.
right,
No,
No, that-
but if you.
We already
look-
got to 3 months.
If
That's
you
right.
look at the little box at the very bottom, Margaret,
mhm,
of you'll see that we came back up, the difference came back up. Because you took the water ban out in the spring of this year. Or late last year. We did away with the water ban. So what we're saying what that number says is people started irrigating again, and they actually irrigated more than they ever have. Because we had a five
Received less,
hundred thousand, we had a $500,000 increase in that number. So we're thinking that was additional irrigation that was happening. Plus, we've had some larger houses and, the single family home properties that probably have systems in them.
mhm.
And a lot of people were trying to get lawns established over the summer.
Right.
So there was probably a lot of watering. But that's all treated water, so where.
It just
paying
goes into
chemical
it goes
costs
into the
and all
ground.
that.
right.
It's just going into the irrigation systems.
So
So
not coming back as
not
raw
coming back as
wastewater.
sewer.
Right.
So it does save us from having to treat it, but we are producing
Paying to
it
produce
as
it.
drinking water.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just some, if you go through this, and Bob, you've helped, by asking questions, if you see something in here that's not making sense to you, please let us know and we'll
Okay.
try to get you an answer, so. I am trying, Bob, to show you, like, the line shows you where we're totaling up to. And we're showing you both the annual total and the year-to-date totals
Okay.
for each year. So you can do a little bit of analysis.
Okay.
So. It also has taken, precipitation is just there to show you basically the drought situation, because 19 is the last year that we weren't
Right.
in a drought kind of situation, especially during the summer. So you can see the huge differences that we're seeing from that. I consider 19 to be the kind of the last normal year.
And it was 40, yeah, that was 40, excuse me, annual total was 62.5,
Yeah,
down to 42, 40, almost
well,
43.
42.38 was the year-to-date total. So through the
Right.
end of August in 19,
Mhm.
we had received 42 inches of precipitation. This year, we're down.
And
to
it's 24. Well, no, we're even down further, right,
25.05.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, 24,
So-
23, 25, so it's
Yeah.
been a constant reduction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of,
Definitely
almost
a
20
change,
inches.
and I don't know if it's just a normal cyclical change. It'll be interesting to see as we continue on here what the. what
sure
the
there'll be studies
deal
done
is.
statewide too.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything on the wastewater, water, and on rec then?
No, rec is, they had the record year and.
terms of the
final
campus.
numbers are on that sheet.
Okay,
And I'll, for the
Right.
28th meeting, I'll prepare the first. Summary of her expenses versus revenues, now that we're through the summer. And she's received the majority of her revenue. From her
Right.
summer camp programs. She may have a WVRA
Mhm.
catch-up payment left
Mhm.
or something from boats, but. The
Has-
majority of her summer is in now. So we can start doing those comparisons that you have looked at.
okey-doke, and any idea when the siding project's gonna finish? Has she mentioned it all? It's still intruding on
Still-
her,
They are.
their ability to
So
operate.
she now has to enter, I think, by going down by the school and coming up around. Her entrance is blocked,
Right,
at least temporarily.
okay. All right, so if that's it with department head reports, we can move to calendar review. So our next select board regular meeting is 28th, but we've now scheduled a
21st.
special at the 21st at 3 p.m. And the planning board's having its master plan public hearing on the 20th at 6 p.m. So we get some audience, resident, property owner, taxpayer
That's gonna be here.
participation. No, we're gonna, thank you. No, it's gonna be at the town square,
Meeting room.
at the meeting room, because
It's more people.
we can get more people in there. And when we first started this process a number of years ago, I think we had over 70 people attend when we were asking for ideas of what we should be talking about
Yeah.
going forward. So we'll see. We've had some input via email.
Yeah, and actually Tori said that she is gonna have some written.
Okay, great.
comments before, so.
The more the better, absolutely. Okay, and oh yeah, and we won't, well, we will have a special meeting now, but want to mention the Run for the Fallen on the 24th.
Yep,
Before our next regular
right,
board meeting.
Yep.
Are the organizers expecting us to have an opening statement
Yep.
like last year?
definitely,
Okay.
if one of you would like to do that.
I wouldn't mind doing, but I'd like you to do your poem.
You want me to do that again? Same poem?
Yes. What do you think?
Okay.
I-
Everybody seemed to like it.
I thought it was great, and I
I
can
have
have,
to go memorize it again.
okay, well,
Sorry.
you could take a piece of paper.
What time is that opening ceremony?
I think registration is 8:30 and I want to say that the ceremony starts at 9:15 or 9:30, something like that.
Right,
And then 10 o'clock, they go out.
they do the race, and so, okay, so I can prepare some opening remarks.
And
Well,
they're
welcome.
gonna, we're gonna be lining up people with bathrooms and that kind of thing again, right?
Yeah,
Along
we,
the route.
yes.
Yeah.
And we have all the signs are all set and the donation signs, the thank you signs.
That was
the
mine,
resort
that's-
is doing that.
Yeah,
Again,
we will, people,
At the welcome center.
you can go pick one up,
Yeah, you can go,
or they will put your name,
correct.
yeah. Was there a price, is it, this
I
year
don't know
again?
what the price is. It's just.
I thought I saw
It was 50 last year, I think.
50.
It's
9:30.
9:30 opening ceremonies, okay. And
And
$50 people to
$50
stop by the welcome center where they could,
They can donate.
and they
And
could,
the opening ceremony is by the ice arena?
Right by the.
yeah, in the field, yeah, right there. All right,
And I talked, the BVTS students are gonna participate.
yep,
as
they did the
helpers.
last year, they've helped,
Just want for the people who are
Mhm.
might be watching online. Later, we have a sign up sheet if anyone from the community is interested. And I need to talk to the PTO about getting the bake sale.
they were there
from the
last year,
elementary
yeah,
school.
and hopefully we'll get elementary school students to,
Thank you, the
to come out and help.
trustees for giving us the water and so.
Right.
We're.
Other folks, other
Other
help,
people have really been helping.
great. When we meet on the 21st, if you can just mention it again, just
Sure.
we mentioned just a few days before.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes care of, I think, calendar review.
I'm gone on the 29th for about 9 days.
9 days, okay,
I'll come back the next
The
Friday.
following week.
Friday.
okay.
All right, so I think we just have one item left on new business. I think we did everything else, and that was the water pollution control revolving loan agreement approval.
Did you vote, did they vote on the offsite solicitation? Was there an actual vote?
Oh,
on that?
all right, I will vote to approve the offsite solicitation from Tartaglia Pizza. It's well, do I have to give all the details or just
No,
as
just presented.
as presented and approved on the by code enforcement on the permit?
Yeah, I was confused, because back in the memo.
Yep.
If I can find it. Where is it? Is it
So.
number 8? At
it
the
is
end of it,
number-
it says review and sign MS
Oh,
535 as
sorry.
presented.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, it should be.
I was
review
looking
and
for the-
sign the permit as presented. I missed the edit on that.
Right.
Sorry.
All right.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you for catching that.
Good.
So the water pollution control revolving loan agreement approval.
Yeah, so they sent the paperwork that I started to share with you at the last meeting and we decided to do it today. As I was going through it, I noticed that the loan forgiveness percentage on the paperwork that they sent us was only 2% instead of 20%.
Uh-huh.
Did they miss a zero?
So, well, so I went back and I looked, and if you remember, back in September of last year, we were approved on the state list, and we were approved at 2% loan forgiveness originally.
Mhm.
And then in December, we received a notice that the American Rescue Plan
Mhm.
Act would give additional money to the state, and our percentage went up. So they gave us an additional $800,000. So we went up to 20%
Mhm.
of the $4 million.
Right.
Dollars.
Right.
That is a total separate pot of money. And the original $80,000 will remain on our clean water state revolving fund loan.
Mhm.
So that 80,000 is accurate.
Okay.
because that 2% didn't change. So we're gonna get a total of $880,000.
Right, okay.
And we'll get more papers to sign.
Right, but I did not want to bring the loan agreement until I have the ARPA loan monies, however they're gonna do it,
Okay,
in hand,
Mhm.
so that we know we have 880,000.
Fair
Okay,
I don't want
Okay.
you guys voting on something and then having the state go, well, you accepted the $80,000.
right,
all right,
gotcha.
I can
So-
wait,
I can
I
wait.
just,
right,
hopefully by the 28th, I'll have both sets of paper.
all right,
So did we think the 2% was gonna be 20% also, in the first?
No, originally, we only qualified for 2%.
Okay.
And that was a function of median household income very high. And our water and sewer rates being the lowest in the state. And so we didn't get any points when they scored us. So we didn't qualify for any loan forgiveness.
Okay.
You know, and then while we're talking about this, we had a meeting with the DES staff today about the wastewater treatment plant
yeah,
project.
let's talk about that now.
It was a very good meeting. They were sympathetic. But at the end of the day, after 50 minutes, it was like, we understand all of your arguments, town, but there's nothing we can do. And
So EPA rules.
so EPA rules, and we really, we don't think that there's any case for you guys to make to the EPA. So we're gonna help you in any way that we can, but you
This is the
basically.
one,
That one, yeah,
the one, measurement.
Yeah, the
Where there's
one
no equipment.
TSS.
Where
Yes.
there's
the
no
one-
equipment that can do
There,
that.
and
No.
we
Can
brought.
can we write a letter to the EPA asking for their recommendations on equipment that could be considered to do this job?
We
in as much
can.
as there's no certified, there's
It
no,
won't be answered.
no equipment has been certified to do it.
It
No,
won't
I
be
mean, if
answered.
they're asking us to measure to this level.
To a level that there's
Well,
no
their
certified.
argument is
agreement.
We already measured to that level. Remember, we developed the measuring process. And for the last 50 years, we have been measuring to one TSS.
So they'll just tell us, use what you've
So
been
they're
doing,
gonna tell us,
okay?
To
do
do
what
what
you
we've been
do.
doing.
Yeah.
Is
the
that a
problem
problem?
is, yes, because the engineers cannot get the equipment operators to certify that it's gonna meet the standards. So they can't certify the plans that it meets the standards. So
Even though we have this other process.
even though right, so everything is gonna be caveated back to this other process.
Mhm.
And that puts a lot of pressure on our staff, right? Because
Yeah.
any problem that we have, like, let's say that all of a sudden the TSS is 1.5 or 2. We're now out of permit. And the only thing we can point to is our process. We can't point to equipment, we can't point to engineers, doing something wrong, so it puts everything back on Dylan and Rich. In their replacements in the future. Now, we have been living with it. But it's never been as noticed as it is now. I mean, it kind of has surfaced as EPA renewed the permit and they went, wow, that's a really stringent thing you've done.
Let me ask you
how to
this,
measure it.
since we figured out how to do it without having equipment that can measure it, can we patent it and sell it?
No, it's an accepted methodology.
Oh,
Basically, yeah, it's an accepted. They understand what we're doing. It isn't anything that we could patent,
Mhm.
but because it's a very manual process.
mhm.
It's just not the normal way of doing
Right.
things. Usually,
And all these other people out there that have to cope with this, are they also doing their own manual process?
no one else has to meet this
They don't have
limit.
to, yeah.
We have the
We're
lowest
lucky.
limit in the country.
The one TSS,
The
whatever it
one
is.
TSS is the lowest limit in the country. Most everybody else.
But I mean, in New Hampshire, this is applicable to all of New
No.
Hampshire,
No,
right?
just
No,
us.
Just us.
Just us.
Every other plant is either, I don't think there's any plant that goes below 5 TSS. And the
Hmm.
equipment certifications go as low as 2, but nobody will go to 1. So that's the problem that we're having,
We're the only plant in the country that has to do.
as
this.
far as we know, yes.
Another thing, Waterville Valley is unique.
And
Can
the
you
state's
ask the EPA to point us in the direction of others who have to meet this standard so that we can consult with them?
Nobody has. to meet
We
this.
did.
Well,
say-
let them
no, no,
say that
but we
then.
did say, I
Yeah.
mean, remember, we responded to the draft permit. We pointed this out. And they basically said, you already do it. Basically consult with yourself, you do it now.
And
so
we
we're
don't,
not,
we don't loosen
and
requirements.
they have an anti-backsliding, that's the
That's
other
what it
thing
was,
they
yeah.
fall back on,
Right.
is they have this anti-backsliding clause.
So we've
that-
proven 50 years we can do it, so what's the problem?
Right,
From their
is
perspective.
what their perspective is, but as we try to build a new plant, getting the plant certified by everybody is going to be the issue. And basically what the state's response today was, well, you build a treatment plant and then you tack on a water treatment plant to your wastewater plant. And that's only $5 to $7 million more, no problem. So there are ways to get down to the 1 TSS, but it's drinking water treatment. So, and that's what we have over there, charcoal and all the current operation that we do, that's a drinking water plant. So, but it is it's extra money, and that was my point back to the state. Why, if this is, and their final thing on it was, look, you would not get a wastewater treatment plant permitted in Waterville Valley in 2022. So if we had no permit and we wanted to build a new plant, we would not be allowed to build a plant that discharges to the Mad River today.
Mhm.
You can't do it because of the receiving water in the Mad River. And actually Rennie Pelletier was on the call,
Hmm.
and he's the one that pointed that out.
I never did decide. I decided never to go meet
Yeah.
them.
Well, but I'm just saying, I was glad that he was on there because we got
Yeah.
input from him. And he's saying, yeah, you guys are lucky to have a plant and a permit because you couldn't get it today.
If we were starting.
If you were
brand new.
starting,
If you were trying to put, other than, well, we could put the water in the ground. but
well, and that's something I want to talk to you about, with our other land acquisition discussion.
Okay. All right, very good. So, but do we want to advertise? Well, I mean, if we built that water treatment plant, we could advertise it. Our wastewater is so clean, you can drink from.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we did some bacteria treatment, chlorinated, it's drinking.
Yeah.
It's almost the same.
It doesn't have to
standard
put us in
as-
some ecological great status. Anyway, we need to move on. Okay, so that was the discussion of the new treatment plan.
Yep.
Update, we already did the reval. We're gonna discuss that on the 21st, right?
Yep.
So,
I will have the list for you, the grand list for
Right.
you by Friday.
Okay.
Steve Hamilton said he'd get it to us.
alrighty, so that leaves, let's go to Water River Crossing.
They are working, they should.
They are
have-
working?
They have.
Well, there
completed-
are trucks there,
They
Okay,
have
and I have seen machinery moving, but I'm not quite sure what's
They've
going on.
completed the
Yeah.
installation of the water line as of noon time.
ah,
They are now investigating all the electrical, gas lines and telephone line, whatever's in the ground
Mhm.
between the treatment building and well building 2. They're doing test pits
Okay.
to find out where all
You
that.
don't cut
is.
your electric line, right?
And
No, they had a hole open near where pump number 1 was again yesterday.
yeah, they needed to find out the old, well, the line that we're reusing to bring water from well 3
Yeah.
back to the system. They had to look at that because I think there's a valve or something that they need to put on there. So that's why they were
Oh,
digging
okay.
back there.
Okay, but they've already put the 6 and 8 inch line underneath up to the treatment building?
Yes,
Oh, okay, I missed. that
those are
whole line. I
both-
never saw.
those are
trenches.
now
Ah.
both in up to well building 2.
2, right?
Mhm.
And now they're looking in between. They believe that by the end of next week, they're going to have the connection completed inside the treatment building, including the coring. That may even happen this week, but
Mhm.
they said at least by next week, that'll be
They're on
finished.
schedule basically.
They're
to-
on schedule. And I would anticipate that by the second week of October, they will have everything done except some inside work on the electrical
Mhm.
and SCADA systems. And then we'll be just waiting for the generator, which we don't expect until next spring because of.
And the fence?
The fence will be up. I expect the fence up in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then, and the new path will be
The
done.
new path is already done. Ian's gotta get in there and make sure that everything's okay, but that's all done.
I've seen them cleared, but in terms of being walkable and all that kind of. thing.
Oh, it won't be, we're not turning it into the type of path like the rest of the connector
Okay,
above.
okay,
That's not gonna be finished to that level.
okay,
What you see there now, if Ian gets in and does some grubbing or clearing, whatever he
Mhm.
wants to do, he can.
Mhm.
But that's the path
okay.
that we've,
All right,
Ian from the cross country.
yeah, from the
Yeah.
Nordic Center.
Mhm.
good. And the tear down of,
Well, building
Well, with the
one,
one
that's
soon.
all within the next couple
All right,
of 3
wow.
weeks.
Wow.
They,
Big changes.
yeah,
they are, there's gonna be a lot of physical
Yeah.
changes that you're gonna be able to see now.
okay,
But they're on schedule according to our meeting today.
great. All righty, there are no further questions on that. The NHDES proposed administrative order.
Yep, you
Schedule.
have, I put a copy of the
Yep.
email with the timeline.
Yep,
So Emily Jones is the person that we met with last week, on a remote call. This is the state's proposal. I'm just waiting for Jim to get back from vacation and, we'll get back to her. But these are the
They look reasonable to
dates.
you?
Yeah, we can meet all of these.
Okay,
we'll have to meet all of these.
yes,
Well, we will now
Well,
if
we
we
will
agree
now.
to.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, she
Okay.
said, do you need more time? And I had to bite my tongue. I wanted to get till June of 24, but I figured that was pushing
That
out.
was pushing it.
indeed.
So, I
Okay,
mean, we can modify these dates if we run into some crisis.
Mhm.
we can still have an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Okay.
All right, so this will be all legalized in an agreement.
Yes. And just so you know, I don't know if you've done administrative orders before, but generally the agreement that we're signing says we will meet these dates and we will have a functioning
Mhm.
Mhm.
transfer station by this day.
Mhm.
And if we don't, we understand that the state's reserving their right to go back and
Finance.
fine us,
Right,
basically.
it's the same thing with the dam.
Same thing as the.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is all understood already. I think any board concerns or directives at this point?
No.
Any correspondence other than what we're gonna discuss in non-public?
Mark,
Uh,
I just one question, the infamous parking area used by the tennis folks that is partial town land, partial Craig land. There were some posts in there that have been taken down. Was that?
I think they were knocked down by cars potentially.
Oh, they were wooden stakes?
Yeah,
It wouldn't,
those
I
are
mean,
on
they're
his,
big.
yeah, I think those
They're
are on,
big and they're all down. All
Yeah.
three of them are down. And I didn't know whether they had been removed on purpose. I
no,
thought
unless
it was
Craig,
a
they're on
deed.
his property, I think at that
They're
that
on
point.
his,
Yeah.
yeah.
I assume
maybe
some cars just bumped into them and may have knocked them down.
They're kind of
and
massive for
they-
being back,
they
for
go-
being knocked down and to have all three
Well,
of them.
I
go.
tell you, there's been heavy equipment that's been parked there too.
Ah,
I mean, I'm talking about big trailers transporting,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
transporting
They may have
pavers
taken
and
them
stuff
out.
like that.
Okay.
I don't know, I've noticed that
They
too.
may have taken them out when they had the heavy equipment there. When they had it.
Yeah, but that's on Craig's, probably
No,
can ask
he
him about
hasn't-
it.
Yeah, I'll ask him, but he hasn't said anything
Yeah.
to me.
And if they were taken down, they weren't.
No, they weren't put back. They're all
They're
down. There's
just-
one that's been down for well over a year. Just been lying there and Craig hasn't done
That's
anything about it.
his, I think it's on his.
Yeah, I assumed it was on his property.
They are building the, the log cabin.
Mhm.
Do you know where I mean?
I think I did, yeah.
Log
Okay.
cabin on Tea House Lane.
On
Yeah.
Tea
Oh,
House
back that
Lane.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
may have been bringing building materials in or
I
something.
haven't
like
seen
that.
building material, but I've seen heavy equipment and trailers that could going up to Greeley. And because they were doing a lot of work up there, paving and whatnot, but they may have been putting stuff there to go down to Tea House Lane. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah,
Because there isn't much room to
no, there's
put
not
anything.
much room.
And I don't know who's given approval, it's,
It's not our concern. It's
No.
Craig's.
well, part of
Well,
it,
part
well,
of
it
it
is,
is
part of it is right
It's
away.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume we just let it happen because we want.
Well, it was off the traveled
Road,
way of. the
yes,
road.
it's on
Right,
the
so-
figure. We've,
As long as it stays in the dirt, I
right,
know part of that is the town.
and it's not like it's stored there, it's
Right.
just when they bring the equipment in and then they have to truck it out, so they
Yeah.
load it back on and take it out.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the WVRA, and I just got this late this afternoon, did a housing survey.
Uh-huh.
So I will PDF that to you. So that you can take a look at it, but it's gonna be information that gets used as part of the workforce housing.
Good.
Project.
more data are better.
And then we had our first meeting on that planning grant for workforce housing. Remember, we
Mhm,
talked about that three-tiered grant program that the North Country Council is heading up. I think we voted on it. You voted on it
To continue
a
participating,
meeting or
right.
two ago to continue to participate
participate
and
in the,
apply.
right,
We should have the draft application. We're getting assistance from the North Country Council in the preparation of the application.
So what are we applying for?
We're applying for grant money to help us with a review of all of our regulations as it relates to housing. And
Oh, this is the Tara kind of.
this is the Terra.
it's one of the things we're asking you to help us with.
Right. And.
Planning,
the
but this
North-
relates actually to
the North Country Council is helping us do the application for the grants. And they've chosen 6 towns in the North Country, so Grafton and Coos County. And they're gonna help those 6 towns in the application, and then they're gonna make themselves available to our planner and help her through the process. Because they want to collect data that's an air freshener.
I was wondering what the heck it was.
smells like we're in a laundry.
It's better than dead rat. So.
I imagine so.
So they're gonna help us because they wanna work through these workforce
Right.
housing issues that are affecting. them.
And this is grant money for the conversation we're having with the resort and the Forest
Exactly.
Service.
And it's gonna
about-
help us get our regulations in place before we have to deal potentially with the workforce housing project that they're doing with the forest. So,
Okay,
so I think it's important
that's good.
stuff to
All right,
keep going. And that's it.
all righty. So do I have a motion to go into non-public session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye. Aye. All right. Just let us know, Sharon, when we're